I swear I heard her heartbeat before I saw her. Or maybe it was mine, caught somewhere between my ribs and the sound of her footsteps in the hall. She lived next door for months before we ever really spoke. A quiet woman, mid-40s maybe, the kind who carried her calm like a secret. I'd see her in passing, early mornings with coffee in hand, late nights when the lights from her apartment spilled soft gold across the shared balcony. She always nodded, polite, distant. But sometimes her eyes lingered, just a second too long. That night, the air felt heavier than usual. The rain had just stopped, leaving the world smelling like wet earth and faint jasmine from the potted plant she always tended. I was outside drying my hair with a towel, pretending to check my phone, when her door opened. "Power's out again," she said, holding up a candle stub, the flame trembling between us. I offered her my flashlight. "You can take it. I've got another." She hesitated, then smiled, a small, tired smile that still found a way to make my chest tighten. "Come in. You'll need to show me how it works." I never remember which end to press. Inside, her apartment smelled like rain and warm linen. A record player hummed quietly in the background, a scratchy old jazz tune that seemed to fill every silence before we could. I showed her the flashlight, clicked it on and off. She watched, closer than necessary. "You make it look easy," she said softly. "It's just a button," I replied. My voice came out lower than I meant. She laughed, not loud, but with a breath that brushed against something unsteady in me. Her hand brushed mine as she took the flashlight. Just that, skin against skin, and the air seemed to pull tighter around us. Her fingers lingered a moment too long. "Sorry," she murmured, though she didn't pull away immediately. I shook my head. "You don't have to be." Her gaze flicked to my mouth, then down to the floor. The candlelight made her skin glow, soft and unreal, and I could see the faint line of a scar at the base of her throat, something human and imperfect that made her even harder to look away from. "You're younger than I thought," she said finally. "Is that bad?" "No." A pause. "Just unexpected." The silence that followed wasn't awkward, not exactly. It was the kind that hums. The kind that dares you to break it. Outside, thunder rolled again, distant but approaching. She set the candle on the counter, and for a second, I thought she'd move closer. Instead, she turned to the window, her reflection framed in the glass, candlelight flickering across her cheek. "You live alone?" I asked quietly. Her shoulders rose, then fell. "Used to be we," she said. "Now it's just me." There was a softness in the way she said it, not bitterness, not pain. Something in between. Something like remembering. She turned, and for the first time, didn't look away when our eyes met. "You have that look," she said. "What look?" "The kind that doesn't know whether to stay or to leave." I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because she was right, I didn't know. The candle flickered, throwing her face in half-light, and for one suspended heartbeat, the distance between us felt smaller than it should have. Then, a knock at her door. Sharp. Sudden. She blinked, stepped back, her breath catching. "Don't move," she whispered. And for reasons I couldn't explain, I didn't. The knock at her door faded into silence. Whoever it was must have given up. But the quiet that followed didn't feel like relief. It felt like everything we hadn't said yet pressing down between us. She exhaled slowly, eyes still on the door. "People have a habit of showing up when they're not wanted." Her tone was soft, but her hands trembled slightly as she reached for the candle. I noticed, and pretended not to. I wanted to ask who it was. A friend? Someone who used to be? But the question stayed behind my teeth. Instead, I said, "You okay?" She gave me a look that almost passed for amusement. "You're young. You still ask that like it matters." Something in her voice made me pause. "And you don't?" She smiled, small, sad. "I stopped waiting for anyone to care about that kind of thing." There it was, the shadow behind her calm. A kind of loneliness that doesn't announce itself, that hides in practiced grace and polite smiles. It made me want to stay, even when I knew I shouldn't. She turned, brushing past me to set the flashlight on the table. Her shoulder grazed my chest, just a whisper of contact, but enough to make me forget how to breathe. I stepped back, clearing my throat. You live here long? 3 years, she said. Moved after the divorce. Needed quiet. Got maybe too much of it. The word divorce hung there, quiet but heavy. She caught the look on my face and tilted her head. Don't start pitying me now. I wasn't, you were. A faint smirk. It's written all over your face. I laughed under my breath, caught. She smiled then, a real one this time, unguarded for a heartbeat. The power flickered back on just then, washing the room in a pale yellow glow. The record player stopped with a soft click. The candle still burned, the flame small but steady. She reached to blow it out, but I stopped her, my hand closing gently around her wrist. Let it be, I said. She didn't move. Her pulse thudded beneath my thumb, fast and unsteady. Our eyes met again, closer this time. Too close. You shouldn't look at me like that, she whispered. Like what? Like you don't know better. But she didn't pull away. Neither did I. The space between us was barely a breath now, the scent of her perfume, faint and familiar, the warmth of her skin like something I'd been missing without realizing it. She finally drew her hand back, exhaling as if something inside her had just broken loose. You'll make this harder than it needs to be, she said quietly. Maybe it was already hard, I answered. For a long moment she didn't speak. Then she reached up, almost without thinking, and brushed a strand of wet hair from my forehead. Her fingers lingered there, soft, deliberate. Neither of us smiled. Neither of us looked away. And when she finally lowered her hand, it felt like something invisible had already changed. The next evening, I told myself not to go. But there I was again, standing outside her door with an excuse. The storm had tripped my breaker, the hallway light was flickering, something. Anything. I knocked once. The sound barely carried before she opened it, as if she'd been waiting. You again, she said, but her tone wasn't annoyed. More like worry. I thought I should check if your power stayed on. I lied. She leaned against the doorframe, a sweater slipping off one shoulder, hair loose in a way I hadn't seen before. You always this neighborly? Only with you. Her eyes softened for a second, then flickered past me down the hall, cautious, almost nervous. Come in before someone sees. Her apartment felt warmer this time. The scent of coffee and rain lingered in the air, and the faint hum of a radio filled the background. She set down her cup and crossed her arms, studying me. You shouldn't keep coming over like this. I know. So why do you? I hesitated. Because I don't know how not to. She exhaled through her nose, half a laugh, half surrender. You're too young to sound that certain. And you're too certain to sound afraid. That caught her off guard. She turned away, pretending to fuss with the coffee pot, though her hands trembled slightly. The sleeve of her sweater slipped lower, revealing the curve of her shoulder. My eyes caught on it before I could stop myself. Don't, she said quietly. I wasn't, you were. The words hung there, sharp and breathless. I took a small step closer, not enough to touch her, but enough to feel her warmth. Tell me to go, I said. She didn't. Instead, she turned, her face inches from mine. Her breath brushed against my skin, carrying the faint sweetness of coffee. I could see every detail, the fine line of her jaw, the tired ache beneath her eyes, the way her lips parted as if she wanted to say something but couldn't. Then a knock. We both froze. She stepped back instantly, her hand flying to her chest. The knock came again, firmer this time. Her phone buzzed on the counter, a name flashing on the screen. Mark. She didn't answer it. Just stared until the sound stopped. Ex-husband, she said finally. He still thinks I owe him explanations. The quiet after that was heavy, like something sacred had just been broken. I swallowed. You don't owe anyone anything. Her eyes found mine again, wet with something that wasn't quite tears. Then why do I still feel like I do? Neither of us moved. The world outside seemed to disappear, only the low hum of the radio and the ticking clock between heartbeats. She took a step forward this time. Her hand brushed against my chest, just for a moment, light, trembling. Go home, she whispered, though her voice didn't sound like she meant it. I will, I said. But I didn't move. Neither did she. And for the first time, silence felt like the most dangerous thing in the room. I tried to stay away. For 3 days I did. But every night, her light was still on, a warm rectangle glowing through the rain, pulling me toward it like gravity doesn't care about reason. On the 4th night, I gave up pretending. She opened the door before I even knocked. You took your time, she said. Her voice was quieter than usual, softer, almost like she'd been expecting this. I told myself I wouldn't come back, I said. And yet here you are. We both stood there, the distance between us small, fragile. She wore a loose shirt, sleeves rolled up, a hint of paint smudged near her wrist. There was a half-finished canvas propped against the wall, strokes of deep blue and gold bleeding into each other. You paint? I asked, though it was obvious. When I can't sleep, she said. Which is most nights lately. Because of me? Her eyes lifted slowly. Maybe. That word, soft, unguarded, broke something open in me. I stepped inside before I could stop myself. She turned away, pretending to fix the brush in her hand, but her voice betrayed her calm. You shouldn't be here. I know. Then why? Because I keep thinking about you, I said. The words came out raw, stripped of hesitation. Every time I hear your voice through the wall. Every time I see your light still on. I try to ignore it, but I can't. She froze. The brush slipped from her fingers, clattering to the floor. Don't, she whispered, but her voice trembled. You don't know what you're saying. I moved closer. I do. Her breath hitched. I could feel the warmth of her skin even before I reached her. She turned, and our faces were inches apart, close enough that I could see the pulse at her throat, the faint shimmer of tears that hadn't yet fallen. This isn't fair, she said. To you. To me. Then stop me. She didn't. Instead, she reached up, fingers brushing the side of my face, tracing the line of my jaw. Her touch was careful, almost reverent. You're too young to understand what this costs, she murmured. Maybe. But I know what it's worth. For a heartbeat, we stood like that, the world shrinking to the sound of our breathing, the faint hum of rain against glass. Her hand slid to the back of my neck, trembling. My own fingers found her wrist, holding her there, not to pull her closer, just to stop her from leaving. I can't do this, she said, but the words didn't sound like truth. Then why aren't you moving? She closed her eyes, her forehead resting lightly against mine. I felt her whisper more than I heard it. Because your heart sounds like mine when you're near. And then, the faintest sound. A door unlocking. We both turned toward it, breathless, caught. Someone was home. The door that unlocked wasn't hers. It was the one across the hall. Still, the sound snapped the moment in half. She stepped back first, quick, like the space between us had burned her. I caught only a trace of her perfume as she moved away, hands trembling as she reached for the fallen paintbrush. Go, she whispered. Before anyone sees. But I didn't move. You think I care if they do? You should. There was something in her tone, not fear exactly, but a warning. Something she knew that I didn't. Why? I asked. She hesitated. Then her shoulders dropped. Because Mark still has the lease. I blinked. Your ex? She nodded once. The apartment's in both our names. He still comes by to check things. Check on you, I said quietly. Her silence was answer enough. The air between us changed again, heavier now, more dangerous. All the unspoken things we'd been circling suddenly felt exposed, like someone could walk in and name them. You lied, I said, softer than I meant. She turned sharply. I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you everything. Why? Because I liked how you looked at me before you knew. The words hit harder than I expected. She stared at the floor after saying them, her breathing uneven. I wanted to be angry, but the truth of it disarmed me. She wasn't manipulating, she was protecting what little safety she'd built, even if it was made of half-truths. I stepped closer, slow enough that she could have stopped me. She didn't. You think I only liked the version of you I didn't understand, I said. Most people do, she murmured. I reached out, fingers brushing her arm, light, uncertain. I don't. She closed her eyes at that, like she wanted to believe it but didn't dare. Then, a soft buzz from her phone again. The same name, Mark. Her hand trembled as she silenced it. The screen lit the curve of her face, pale and tired. He knows you've been here, she said quietly. He saw you that night in the hall. My stomach tightened. So what happens now? She looked up, eyes bright with something between fear and want. Now you decide if this is worth the mess it's going to make. The room felt smaller, her words echoing louder than any sound. I could see her chest rise and fall, the faint tremor in her lip as she tried not to let emotion show. I took one step forward, then another. The space between us dissolved. I already decided, I said. She whispered. Don't say that. Why not? Because if you mean it, she said, her voice breaking, then I won't be able to stop. She brushed past me toward the door, not to send me away, but to close it. The latch clicked, soft but final. When she turned back, her expression had changed, fear still there, but swallowed by something deeper. Whatever came next, there was no pretending anymore. The door clicked shut, and with it, something inside me shifted. The sound was small, a quiet, final note, but it carried the weight of every moment that had led here. The rain outside fell steady against the window, a rhythmic hush that seemed to drown out everything else. She leaned back against the door, eyes closed, as if holding it shut against more than just the world outside. I shouldn't have, she whispered. You already did. Her eyes opened slowly. You don't understand, I do, I said, stepping closer. You're scared. So am I. She exhaled sharply, her breath catching somewhere between a sigh and a laugh. You shouldn't say things like that. Why not? Because it makes them real. I was close enough now to feel the warmth radiating off her. My hand hovered near her arm but didn't touch, not yet. I could see every flicker of doubt in her face, every emotion fighting for space. Tell me to leave, I said. She looked at me, eyes glassy but steady. I can't. Her voice was barely a sound, more like a thought escaping. She turned away for a second, as if gathering herself, then faced me again, her breath trembling. I spent so long convincing myself I didn't need anyone, she said. That being alone was safer. Cleaner. Easier. Was it? Her lips parted. She shook her head once. No. I took another step. She didn't move back this time. My hand brushed her sleeve, the softest contact, but it was enough to draw a shiver through her. You make it hard to breathe, she said. Then stop pretending you don't feel it too. That broke her. The wall she'd kept between us cracked. She reached up, fingers trembling, and touched my chest, just above my heart. Her palm stayed there, feeling the beat that seemed to stumble under her touch. This isn't supposed to happen, she murmured. Then maybe we stop caring what's supposed to. The silence stretched. Every breath, every heartbeat, every unspoken word filled the space between us. She leaned in, slowly, almost unwillingly, until her forehead rested against mine. The faintest tremor ran through her. If we do this, she said softly, there's no going back. I don't want to go back. She closed her eyes, a tear slipping down unnoticed. I felt it more than saw it, the warmth of it as her breath brushed my skin. My hand rose to her face, brushing her hair away, fingers grazing her cheek. For a moment, the world stilled. The storm outside faded to nothing. Only the sound of her breathing, steady and fragile, remained. Then she whispered, not a confession, not a promise, just truth. I wanted you to stay from the very first night. Our lips hovered a breath apart, not touching, not yet, the tension trembling between what we were and what we were about to become. And then, she turned her head slightly, her voice low near my ear. Tomorrow, she said. If you still mean it. Morning came slow, pale light filtering through the curtains like the night didn't want to leave just yet. I hadn't slept. Not really. Every sound from her apartment, the faint creak of the floor, the soft hum of her kettle, kept me awake, caught somewhere between hope and hesitation. When I finally stepped into the hall, her door was already open. She stood there, coffee in hand, hair still damp from a shower, wrapped in a quiet that looked a lot like peace. You came, she said. I said I would. She smiled, small, uncertain. I didn't think you'd mean it. I always meant it. For a while, neither of us said anything. The world around us felt different somehow, gentler, like it had exhaled after holding its breath too long. She gestured for me to come in. I followed her inside, closing the door behind me. The same candle from that first night sat unlit on the counter, a waxy ghost of everything we hadn't dared to name until now. I almost talked myself out of this, she said quietly. Told myself it was wrong. Foolish. Was it? She shook her head. No. Just unexpected. I stepped closer, the air between us warm with the scent of coffee and something softer, the faint sweetness of her perfume that I now knew by heart. I kept thinking, she continued, her voice barely above a whisper, that you'd wake up one day and realize I'm not who you imagine. I'm older. Messier. I've made mistakes I don't talk about. I reached for her hand. Maybe that's why I'm here. Her fingers curled around mine, slow and tentative, like she was still testing the truth of it. You don't care what people will say? I care more about what you'll say. That made her laugh, a sound that shook something loose inside me. She took a step forward, her free hand resting against my chest. I could feel her pulse in her fingertips, steady now, no longer running from itself. I don't know what happens after this, she said. Then we find out, I murmured. Her forehead rested against mine, the same way it had the night before, only this time there was no fear hiding behind it. Just quiet acceptance. Her lips brushed my cheek, not a kiss, not yet, but something gentler, deeper. When she finally looked up, her voice was soft enough to almost disappear. You hear it? Hear what? My heart. I smiled. Still sounds like mine. She laughed again, that same low, beautiful sound, and this time, she didn't pull away. Her hand slipped into mine, fingers fitting as if they'd always been meant to. The rain outside had stopped. The day felt new, like something had finally decided to begin instead of end. We didn't need to say anything else. Sometimes silence is the truest kind of answer.